What's up, y'all? This is Ed Newbins. It's Motivated Life Studios. We are here. This is the second episode in my new studio area. We're still trying to get everything worked out, but these are my second guests. These are the dope ladies in real estate that I got a chance to meet and I've known for a little bit. And I want to introduce you guys to both of them. We have Angelamoore and we have Anzhane Slaughter. I gotta do it again.
That was perfect.
That worked. So we have both ladies here. I've known you for about I don't know, maybe at least 8 years.
Every bit of it, yeah.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And so we go way back when we used to do accountability groups and meetings and try to move forward in life and things of that nature. And then I met you recently, but you don't remember. I was like, yeah, I know you. I met you before. She's like, I don't know if I know you. Okay. But we have both ladies in the house. You guys are both in real estate. We're in trying times right now, the economic issues. And I always think that, with turmoil, actually is like the best time to make money. It's not when everything's constant. It's really looking at it from a standpoint of don't have despair in your heart thinking that everything's going bad, because you do see that, but that's not the reality for everybody. And a lot of times it's more about your vision and what you're looking at. So,
So true.
what do you guys think about what's going on in the economy overall?
I was just gonna say, they say in real estate, when everyone is getting out, is usually a good time for buyers to get in.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of opportunity right now. Being the winter season, real estate just naturally works in these waves, and so around winter, you see less buyers, which means less competition, right? And so oftentimes you can use that to your benefit as a buyer. You can really negotiate with sellers for closing costs or to secure contracts under asking. Houses are sitting on the market longer. And people, they hear the headlines, right? We have low inventory, or we have the highest rates that you've ever seen, and it's just not true, right? We have to be mindful. We have to think twice. We have to ask our local professionals, for second opinions when we see these type of headlines. Because although we do, and on the numbers wise, have low inventory to fill the demand of people in Washington or in King County or in Pierce County, all those people aren't buying. So it's actually looking like you have more options right now than you would if you were looking to buy during the peak seasons, February to October times. That's that spring market for in real estate. So get in. I mean, if you can get in, definitely get in now. Rates are expected to continue to go down. So just take that with a grain of salt. You might get a lower rate, but you also might have more competition. So we saw people overbidding houses by $50,000 to $100,000 during the pandemic when rates were at 2%, 3%. So people that were regular, like my people, right, like our people, just really couldn't compete with those cash buyers. I mean, Angela, you got something you want to add to that?
No, you said it all.
Well, the thing, because of different cycles, though. Because when I bought my house, I bought this townhouse, without knowing anything. And I bought it back in 2004, I believe it was. No, 2006. And, we had the crash right after that.
That was right before the crash.
Yeah, so I was feeling like I bought a lemon. Why did I buy this place? I was feeling like underwater. Reality, I wasn't.
Yeah, you weren't at the peak in 06. So
No.
08 was like your peak. Yeah, you were fine.
Yeah. But I felt like, this is crap. Like,
and it worked out for you.
It did in the long run, but it was kind of
absolutely.
scary. And I know a lot of people in the market are just fearful. Sometimes they don't understand things. So can you, I know a little bit about your background. Can you tell people about your background as far as, like, you've been doing home buying classes, urban link type of stuff. Like, the different cycles that have been in this environment. Can you kind of explain to people what to look for, going through? I know you mentioned it too, but as far as you have a little bit more longevity, as far as knowing some of the different cycles that's happened in Seattle.
Well, real estate's always been cyclical. So like we said, we had a market back in 08 where anyone could get a loan back in 04, 05, 06. I always used to joke and say, hey, if you had a pulse, you got a loan. But that we weren't able to sustain that, right? And so what ended up happening, you had a market crash in 08, 09, we had to correct itself. Same thing here recently. It's a different type of element. But again, we had a market that wasn't where we were getting offers over $150,000, $200,000 over list price easily, right? We had a lot of foreign investors that were in our market as well that was driving the market up. And so as Anzhane mentioned earlier, that a regular buyer, first time home buyer, it was hard for them to kind of compete.
Right.
But we also were in a market where we couldn't sustain that pace. right? So it's naturally, anytime you have a rush in equity like that, it's has to reset itself and correct itself.
Right.
So I tell people, it really doesn't matter to you if you're not trying to sell your house anyway. You're not trying to realize that equity. You're not trying to realize that money. So it doesn't matter. Real estate's always going to be cyclical. Where it matters is if you have to do a refinance, or if you're trying to sell it, right? And so that's where it really impacts you.
Absolutely.
So just ride the wave and you'll be fine.
It's scary
We'll
though.
be just fine.
It's scary.
No, not at
well,
all.
because you guys are professionals. So when I
Yeah.
look at it, like I'm, I consider myself to be pretty smart, but real estate's not my game. I'm learning stuff here as I go along. But I didn't. We talked about it earlier a little bit. I didn't have anybody in my family to give me the background information. There wasn't any people in our community that I knew of. Even though I was at the Urban League, I knew what they did. I personally didn't sit down there because I was like, oh, I'm in college. I don't need to know this stuff. I don't really know it. But you're younger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Education.
I could have bought a place a long time ago. I did my place. I bought my first place around 25. Bought this place 25, 26.
Nice.
But I didn't know anything.
Yeah. No, education is certainly the first.
I'm lying. I'm lying.
Yeah.
I was
Well,
25.
no,
I was 30.
You was
31. I was like, that's not right. Because I graduated you done. I'm lying. People are like, it's lying.
But still good.
Yeah.
It's still 30.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
No, this is totally good. I mean, there's people that go their whole lives without owning. So we just need, as a community, as a people, individuals, or as a nation, right? We need to think about ownership. We really need to normalize ownership. That's a lot about, what my brand is about, but we get into that conversation a little later.
Yeah.
We mentioned about, these trends, and it's important to know that in 08 we're not going to have the same problems as we in 2022, because back then, as Angela said, we were giving loans to any and everybody, right? Lending lending practices have changed, right? We don't have predatory lending anymore because there's laws that prevent that. Lenders cannot give money, they can't give a certain amount of money over what you're making monthly, right?
Yeah.
That debt to income ratio. There's just a lot more levels of protection when we analyze kind of our market today that we need to compare back to before. So a lot of people are saying, well, there's going to be a whole bunch of foreclosures because we have the predatory lending, or we don't have those predatory lending practices anymore. We're not going to see foreclosures. The people that bought with these low rates in 2020, in 2021, they could afford those mortgages, right? So that's another difference as we're comparing like these waves that we've seen in real estate. And really, as we're, approaching real estate, we should always be looking at it long term, especially if it's your first property. You don't even have enough. You're buying this home to get some equity position or to get some resources. So this really shouldn't be considered an investment right off the bat. Especially if you're using down payment assistance, you need to know that you got to live in that house at least a year, right? Before you can even rent it out to anyone else. So that means that we need to be looking at real estate long term. And someone that did buy in 08, they're in a wonderful equity position now, because although, yes, maybe the market dipped in 08, 09, but it started going right back up, in 2014. People that were selling their houses when these rates were 2% during the pandemic and bought in 08, they're in a beautiful position. So really looking at real estate long term, even if it's not you're not thinking about a generational wealth and you're thinking about the equity that I can get in this house, that's fine. You need to at least be looking at 5 to 7 years, to really build up some sort of equity, in order for it to make sense.
But some of the issues, like for example, I've been in here since 2006. Yes, 2006. But like I don't know equity game. I don't know the process. I know I'm with Wells Fargo, and I know they play some shady games here and there. I remember even looking into something where they're like, oh, they kind of stopped some of the people being able to do certain type of loans and equity things. I know you were mentioning something that earlier when we were talking on the phone. How do people go, like, I've had my place for a while. What is the process, or is it difficult to be able to pull out equity out your house and the programs? And
there's different ways to pull out equity. We're actually going to do a class on that as well. Different ways to how to build wealth. I just want to say one thing though.
Yeah.
When we're talking about taking the equity out of your home, I always try to, especially if you're trying to build wealth, it's your home is not a piggy bank. Okay, it's not for you to go take your equity out, go buy a car, go shopping, take trips, and what have you, because now it's gone. And at the end of the day, when you do tap into equity, realize that is still a loan.
Gotcha.
Right, that is still money that your cash flow is going down every month because you've now possibly taken out a bigger chunk. So I always say, if you're going to take out equity, take out the equity so that it makes more money for you.
Okay.
Right? So instead, if you have a house, it's maybe, as she mentioned earlier, $200,000 sitting in your home. Well, it's not doing anything for you right now. So if you're able to tap into it and put it into something else, and now that money is making a return.
I see what you're
That's
saying.
how you play that game, right?
So I do hear a lot of people like.
But let's
take
not
a look.
take the
They
equity
did
out.
Jamaica,
Go shopping,
they went gambling,
all that.
got a new
Now you're
Cadillac.
paying 30 years worth of interest on that new coat, that new
Right.
car. You know, so let's not do that.
Okay.
So keep in mind, your home is not a piggy bank.
Okay.
Right. Unless we're talking about this other loan that I can get into a little bit later, on maybe another segment or something. Okay, so yeah, so there's different programs. You can do a HELOC, home equity line of credit. You can do a cash out refinance. That's basically a lot of times if it's your primary residence, some loans will let you do a 90% LTV. LTV is a loan to value. So again, just for sake of numbers, if your house is worth $500,000, 90% of that would be $450,000. So that's the maximum amount. And let's say your house is worth $300,000. So that leaves you $150,000 that you have left to be able to tap into in your home. So again, if it's your primary residence, most places let you do a 90% LTV, loan to value. If it's an investment property, a lot of times they'll make you do 80% LTV.
Okay.
All right. And so it depends on your credit and all that good stuff. So there's different factors. Everybody's situation's a little different.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, and people should also know it's important to, refinance. Don't refinance right when your house is about to. I mean, if you paid 30 years into your house and you're thinking, I want to refinance my house, really walk through with your loan officer, walk through with maybe even a financial advisor, because after you've already spent that much money, you don't necessarily want to take out another mortgage, which is I think what Angela was mentioning, right? This is another loan, right?
It's hard to know this stuff though. It's like I got an MBA in finance. That don't mean nothing about real estate at all.
No.
I don't have no clue. I mean, I can kind of figure stuff out, like when they were trying to get over on me back when I bought my place. Some jumbo loan payment in the background, 50-year amortization. I knew how to do the math. I'm like, yo, this is crazy. I don't want that.
Right.
But they were pushing it on me. If I was ignorant enough, I would have been like, yeah, because I got a low interest rate. This is dope, but it had an arm on it, and it would have shot up, and I would have been kicked out of my house because I couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
So a lot of people just don't have the understanding. Like, you guys could rattle this stuff off because it's like normal to you, but for most people in our community, it's like, man, it's kind of overwhelming information. And then they don't know where to start, and they don't know who to trust.
And
right.
You don't have to, we're professionals in real estate. This is what we do. We can't expect everyone to. You're professional in media and in entertainment and podcasting. That's what you do.
Right.
Photography. If I need to know something about photography, or somebody needs to know something about photography, I'm going to point them to somebody that I know could actually be a resource to them. As a real estate agent, it's important for us to stay on top of our game so that we are resources when it comes to real estate. And that is my lane. And I will own that 100%, especially to those that look like me, that are young, that are, can understand the way I communicate.
Right.
And that use technology. I use technology, social media. People will send me these social media, these reels and these TikToks and be like, can I do this? Is this real? Can I? And I'm just like, okay, can I call you? Because one, I'm not going to be able to respond just in a text.
Right.
But also, we have to understand who's Thatch is like a known. I love him. I think he's actually. I don't know him personally, but Thatch, if you watching this, he's on Instagram. He's on Facebook. He's a real estate investor and he's a great educator. I believe he's in the Seattle King County area.
Yeah, he's out of John L. Scott Renton office. We work together.
Oh, see, there you go.
He's
So
amazing. He's amazing.
What's his last name?
That's Win.
That's
Oh,
right.
I've seen his.
Is amazing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes,
And so
he's definitely a
he
real
great-
estate icon for
Yes,
Seattle.
and
I know
he gives
about him.
great
Yeah.
advice.
Absolutely.
But we have to decipher the Thatches in the world versus these other gurus that are just on social media that aren't actually active in real estate, or that have a lot of money that they can risk. A lot of people that are just getting into real estate, this is an expensive industry. I mean, it's costly, to buy a house and to renovate and to do these fixes, right?
Yeah.
So it's like we have to kind of manage the information that we're receiving, and often it's a lot. Like you said, it's a lot of. There's different types of real estate. I mean, it's almost like some people get paralyzed. Paralysis by analysis. Right? It's just too much.
Too much information.
So I always say, let's talk directly. Come to, whoever your trusted real estate professional is, reach out to them and ask them the specific questions. And then what's great is that we keep a strong network as well, so that if there's not something that I know about, but I know Angela knows about loss mitigation and somebody's on the brink of foreclosure or something, I want that person to be best fit. I mean, that person to somebody to suit their need. You know, I'm not necessarily going to be the best person to suit that need.
Right.
So that's why I know Angela, and that's why I know you for media, and that's why we build these networks.
Absolutely.
So that we can always connect people to the right resource.
And that's kind of what I did it for too, because my first guest was Dennis Comer, who actually was on the phone with me, and this is how that network works. So I've gotten 2 contracts with him. I have a data analytics company that I don't talk about all the time, but I got a contract with that. Me and Debrina got a contract with business consulting with him. I'm getting a contract with, there's a movie coming out. I'm going to be doing with the media of that. But he just called me now. Literally, he's like, because we're always looking for opportunities for each other. I was in Denver because a family member passed away. I talked to him. He had just left there, but he told me, hey, can you go to this area and check out some stuff? My family's from Five Points area in Denver. It's being gentrified like Seattle, but my family is uniquely understand that the richest black man in the world is Robert Smith, or not the world, but United States, is Robert Smith. He's from the same area my dad's family's from. My family knows him, so in my mind, I'm one removed from that too. Connections, and now we're looking at opportunities even there. He called me about an opportunity with Seattle U. Like, I don't know about this stuff. He just literally called me and said, hey, Ed, they're trying to do this and this. Instead of them giving the money over here, I plugged you in. He's going to give you a call pretty soon. I said, call me in 2 hours, But those are the community things, and I'm thinking the same way when I think about real estate folks. Like, who do I call? Who do I know? Angela's dope at what she does.
Anzhane.
I know. I want to say Anzhane.
Anzhane Slaughter.
Yeah.
Anzhane
Slaughter. I had to pause like,
No, YBA. Just think about YBA.
Yeah.
But it's about the network, and it's one of the things where, I look at it like, you guys are dope at what you guys do. You just won an award. We could talk about that a little bit, and also what you got going on, and so it's a good segue, I guess. As far as you just won a major award. Can you tell us about what that is?
Yes, I can. Thank you so much. I'm still kind of like in awe. It's my first real estate award. I've been in real estate now for 5 years, so just that goes to show for anybody just getting into real estate, just keep going. You never know who's watching.
Right.
People are always watching, and it does take time in this industry to really build that brand and network. But it was really an honor. I was awarded by the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. It's a Black organization. It was founded back in 1947 in Tampa, Florida. Okay. Yeah, actually from a lot of the followers of Booker T. Washington. Because back then, Black people weren't able to buy homes and weren't able to be realtors in the, National Association of Realtors. And we even couldn't list our houses on the same market as white people. Yeah, this is real fact.
Are you serious?
This is real facts. We had our own, it was in a magazine, it was a booklet back then, but we had a black book for houses essentially.
So we had the green book and the black book. Travel and then real estate.
It's really something.
Where we're allowed to live and
I mean, so this organization was founded to bring other Black real estate professionals, whether you're lenders, agents, anywhere in the industry, you have a home within NAREB to network, find community. We have conferences. We have an annual one this year. It was in Tampa. I just went. That was my first one. And it was amazing to just connect with people all over the country, and they all have their own chapters and they represent, so now that brings a little competitive to like Seattle. I'm like, oh yeah, we got to represent. Show them that we out here.
You know how small the world is? So the person I interviewed on the other podcast I have with Alvina Willis, it's called Caffeine Cupcakes, was a lady, her name is Alexis Monroe. She's probably down there during that time because she has her own brokers down there. Yeah. She's not part of that group. There's a Netflix show, I think, called Selling Tampa.
Oh, yeah.
She's not a part of that, but she's in that same area. She knows all those people.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's a small world because she's in that area, the Tampa area. So I'm like, it's probably in the same room.
Yeah. No, Sherelle, who I think is the designated broker of the Selling Tampa broker. It's not Selling Tampa. That's not the name of the actual company, but the broker. Yeah, she was the designated broker on that show, and she actually spoke at the Tampa convention. Okay. So it was awesome to be around, and then come back home 6 months later, receive this Vanguard Award, which I guess goes for an agent that's giving cutting edge service, to her community and to her clients. And
Nice.
I take that as my first time homebuyer classes that I teach.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it's just leading through who I am unapologetically and just being myself. And I am teaching the same information. I mean, I've been secret shopped in these classes and get A's, but I deliver in a way that it can be connected and understood by, I think, a diverse audience.
Right.
And then, of course, we got to be on social media. So tapping into social media and just mainly using that as a platform to share information.
Right.
Because, social media is, sure, you use it to maybe generate some leads or so forth. But in order for people to really see value and want to work with me, I have to show my value. And I think I do that through, educating on social media. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's just, I don't know. It was a nominated award,
That's
so
cool,
maybe
that's
my
cool.
guess why
Yeah.
why I received it. But it was definitely an honor, and it's hanging now in my office on my bookshelf.
Nice.
So if we have a Zoom call,
Yeah.
you'll see that award. I'm not doing the background virtual filters no more.
It's right there.
It's just right there, exactly, right next to my YVH hoodies and stuff.
I like it.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's a great accomplishment. You're still just starting still. 5 years is just kind of still getting your feet wet, really.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah,
just
it sure is.
the learning curve is tremendous.
Yeah.
And then I know, Angela, you're doing a lot of stuff too, as far as like you were talking about some of the things you're moving into. I don't know if you can talk about it now.
Sure.
But some of the things that you're kind of visioning that for yourself in the next couple of years or whatever.
Yeah. So like I said, I've been doing homebuyer seminar classes for the state of Washington for, 18 plus years. I also wrote a program back in 2003 for one of the local nonprofits. Again, this is what she mentioned earlier, is for mortgage intervention. So for those who've already been in homeownership, maybe ran into some issues with their mortgage. There's always been some type of hardships in people's lives, right?
Right.
Unexpected. Divorce, disability, change of job, whatever, right? Where you may find yourself in a sticky situation. Well, with this market, again, we were in a market where it kind of raced up pretty quickly again. And as a result, we've seen people losing jobs here recently. We're not expecting to have a foreclosure like we did back in 2008, but we are expecting to have some foreclosures. We're starting to see that. We're starting to see some REO properties and stuff come back on the market as well. So I'm trying to write a second version, a 2.0 version of loss mitigation as well for that local nonprofit. And then, as we mentioned earlier, about tapping into equity. So we want to go, we're working on a program to go into details about how you can go in, tap in equity. And again, we want to use that equity to make more money,
Grow your money.
not to go shopping. Okay? So,
Absolutely.
So
it's
tempting
not
to
a
be
piggy
like,
bank,
yeah,
folks.
yeah.
So just, so those are some of the programs we're working on. And as well as, I do some investing myself and doing some flipping and stuff like that. So I'm
Nice.
trying to just start my Airbnb business. So there we go.
Oh,
I
yeah,
know.
yeah.
I'm super excited
Yeah.
about that. We put it on the market last week. We're kind of booked out till April, so super excited, and we're working on our second project as well. So
I love Angela. We're gonna maybe have to. That's what we could collaborate on. Is like this rental world. Short-term rental, long-term rental.
Yeah.
Getting into rentals, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people do. Once they, that's the first step, right?
Right.
Is just acquiring some property.
right.
Now,
But not everyone wants to be a landlord.
Exactly. Not everyone wants to be a
Exactly.
landlord, for sure.
Right.
And there's a lot
So
of things that
managing
you
that.
could do with your money, but there are people that do want to figure out, because it's a great way to get some passive, semi-passive income, and
It's
set
quick,
yourself
too.
up for retirement.
It is.
Because
Exactly.
rentals definitely will be there when you don't, after you retire, right?
Exactly.
And so
Yeah.
Exactly. So something else we're also working on as well, or what I suggest too, because this market is crazy. We're still in the Pacific Northwest. These prices are not what they were 10 years ago. And
No.
Ed, you and I were talking about this yesterday. Purchasing with friends, getting
Yes.
in, just as long as you're getting into the market. My motto has always been get in where you fit in.
Yes.
And at least I would rather see you get in and start owning something and riding this wave up. Like you said, you've owned what for a couple years? You got $200,000.
Yeah.
$200,000 worth of equity. Most folks can't save at that pace. So at least we have to pay for the roof over our head anyway. So we might as well make some equity out of it, right? So that's, so we'll talk about that as well. It's getting in and start purchasing maybe a multifamily home with people.
Yes.
Just so many different ways to tap into our market. So
Yeah, I've been on this thing about house hacking. That's why I chopped my house into what it is. Like
Yeah.
one of my friends, she's from New York area. Her family grew up in real estate grandfather owned like 12 brownstones back in the days and
Oh,
all the kind of stuff. But he was like, when they were cheap, because he had access to them through some of his connections. I guess the story was that he was a film projectionist with Woody Allen, so he was tapping into that community, and they gave him access to buy these homes that normal black people couldn't be able to get access to. He knew somebody that knew somebody, and he got his way in. But through her, it started dawning on me like, oh, I could be doing something different. You know, even though I have a townhouse, I could chop this up and do something different. So now that's my quest. Now it's like any place that I can find or buy land or anything like that, or even find a home. It's like, oh, I got the skill set. I can chop anything up. Oh, now I know how I can do this and turn that house into, 3 different incomes just like that. So
buy it and just put a regular lease in it. I mean, we talk about also gentrification in our neighborhoods. Because we can buy up there's nothing preventing us from staying in our neighborhoods and buying up our own properties back in our neighborhoods as well. There's nothing stopping us from doing that. Get a few friends together and start purchasing these areas that are changing, but buy them up ourselves.
Yeah.
Why can't we?
It's hard though, because I'm gonna say this though. I don't know about the ladies. You guys, I work with a lot of ladies. You guys seem to do better as far as collecting your resources together and working with each other. I think, but I think, but the guys, we don't do that. Like I got friends that, no shade to my friends and stuff like that, but we've been knowing each other for so long. You think we have a trust level at least to be able to pull a little bit of money together to buy some land or something like that. But we don't even do that. It's like $2,000-$3,000 per person over 5 years. You guys could have saved money. We could have had $50,000 easily to throw at something.
Well, I say put a little structure together, put up a program, get a few trusted people. I don't believe you can go in business with everybody.
Right.
I've had my experiences over the last 20-something years. Some I'm like, but I've done some business with people. I've pulled money together to help buy some investment property, to do some flips, and then everyone made their interests. I always say that you guys are silent partners, as I mentioned earlier. I'll make it happen, and then everyone makes their little money off it. Makes their money. Not actually, it's not little money. It's way more money than they would have gotten if they put it anywhere else, right?
For sure.
So I'm like, what I've also found in this area too, I have a lot of friends who they make really, really good money, but remember, we're amongst a lot of millionaires here, right? So you can't really compete with a lot of millionaires, but again, they might have $30,000-$40,000 that they have sitting there, $10,000 that they're sitting there, and imagine if we pull that together with multiple people, what you can buy off of that, right? And then even if it's just a flip property, or if it's a long-term investment, it's a multifamily. So there's so much you can do with real estate. There's so much you can do.
And what I will say is that, a lot of people just don't know really what they qualify for. They really we make good money. I know people that have kept really good jobs and that have good credit, but it's a mindset thing at a point, right, where they just they don't take that step. Maybe they're worried about being denied. Maybe they're worried about that knocking their credit down, but the first step really is to get pre-approved. I mean, we see these houses are 400, 500, 600,000, and yes, those numbers do seem large, and they are there. It's a lot of money, right? But it's not. You can qualify for that money. All that money is not your money. That is just a loan. You qualify for a loan up to that value. Right. And I think that's the first step. Once you get pre-approved, and now you could see where you could fit in, where you can get in to fit in. Now real estate is you're just one step closer to really achieving that goal. But until you know what you're qualified at, or you're just it's just a dream. It's not
that's
a goal.
The issue though.
Yeah.
I think that's the issue, because I can tell you from my personal experience. Angela knows. So my credit score beginning of the pandemic was 540. I was like, oh shoot, I didn't even know, because I didn't. Once I got into my place here, I'm like, I'm done. I'm good.
Yeah,
right.
I bought my cars with cash. All my stuff was like,
right. You think you never need credit again?
I don't worry about it. Catch me if you can.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't worry about it. But then I was like, but I want to do other stuff. And then I was paying attention to podcasts, listening to. I'm not even knowing my own stuff, and I got an MBA in finance. What's that? I don't even know where I'm at. So when I called Angela up, I was like, because I've been dodging her for a while, as far as opportunities, and I was like, honestly, I've been dodging you, and it's because I don't even know what my credit score is really, and it's one of those situations where I know I'm not the only one, but when I mentioned it to her, I never learned the credit game, but I'm really smart at games, and when we sat down, and she just kind of, okay, let's pull up your credit. I didn't really have credit utilization. I didn't really have bad credit. I just didn't use anything.
Yeah.
And so I was like, so within that year, I was able to raise it up to 750 to almost 800. I think it was at the point in time.
Good.
And
And I was sitting there like, what?
Right. That's part of that mindset shift.
Credit is everything.
Yeah.
Oh, credit is everything, but it took you to even just say, hey, I think my credit is bad. You know, in order for us to build a plan to how, you know, we have to stop shaming
And that's
ourselves.
the shaming part. Yeah.
Shaming ourselves for having bad credit.
That's right.
You know, we weren't educated on credit. We weren't
Right.
even allowed to get credit. I mean, we were excluded for so many of these industries that if anybody ever comes to me, I don't care what the question is or where your credit score is at, let's build the plan together.
Right.
I mean, that should not be the barrier, you know, to get us in, because we are shaming ourselves or we're shaming others because they came with low credit, or maybe you're worried about how much savings. I didn't have any savings, guys, and I bought my house with down payment assistance at $250,000 in Tacoma in 2019. It's 2022 now. My house is worth $450,000.
Yep.
Like, that's serious, and I used down payment assistance, which means I didn't have any savings.
Yeah.
You know, so just because you don't have any savings, just because you think your credit is too low, just because no one ever in your family has ever owned any sort of real estate, or maybe you have people that tell you you're not worth owning anything, do not listen to those people, because I sit here and I tell you that we can get qualified and we make good money out here. You know, I mean, even minimum wage, you know, is pretty good. Not to say that you can buy a house on minimum wage, but I'm not about painting false dreams.
You're about to get a lot of phone
No.
I want the house in Mercer.
Let's connect. We have to manage those expectations now. But seriously, I think I was making less than $70,000 when I bought my house in Tacoma, and you know, I know there's a lot of people out there in that same bracket.
Yeah.
Also, you know, I'm born and raised in Seattle, and I had family in Tacoma. Never went out to Tacoma, but maybe once a year, every other year, you know, for a get together or something. So moving to Tacoma was like a challenge for me. I didn't necessarily want to do it. You know, we hear these bad stories. It's grimy out there.
I like Tacoma.
You know, but so two things when I learned about when moving to Tacoma was, it's a completely different community. I got to learn how artsy and diverse it is, you know. Is it for me? No, it's not necessarily for me. But man, I'm glad that I bought in Tacoma because I wouldn't have been able to afford and that was just 3 years ago. Yeah. I mean, 3 years go by so quickly. Am I living in Tacoma now? No, I'm not. I'm back in King County. But that was the stepping stone. Exactly. That was a stepping stone so that I could get something better. Yeah. You know, in this market, if you can afford anything, you know, if you, especially at a lower income level, you gotta jump on it. Yep. The evaluation is still there. The MLS, Northwest MLS, Multiple Listing Service, just reported this last month that even in a down market, our condos and houses in King County appreciated at 10%. Even in a down market. Even, you know, so it's like, that's positive news, you know. 10% is something that banks want to back they're backing their appraisals off that 10%. So you should be happy that these numbers are keeping to that. But you know, for first-time home buyers, you know, it's stepping stones, get in where you can. Equity is going to be there if you're in Washington, right? And apply this, and you have to, location does matter. So if you want, you know, to move out of state, I would always say connect with somebody in that state that you want to move to. We have resources. Usually real estate agents are your best person to go to get a resource in real estate. And we know people out of state. We know contractors. If you need somebody for a tradesman, you know, a plumber, electrician, an inspector, usually real estate agents are that people-facing resource to kind of connect you. So, you know,
I need to get in your guys a little cute. I do a little work, a little bit. I can do a little work.
What's your scope, Ed?
You can do a little work.
Are you a framer? What's your scope of contracting work? I always ask my contractors.
Yeah, I'm not a framer.
Are you a framer?
He said I do a little work.
I'm not a framer though.
Okay.
So
he does flooring.
But I do want to do. I do want to build my own house though. So that's my next goal, is to buy land and be able to build a home. It might not be like I like the A-frame cabin things. I've been watching that on YouTube a lot. Yeah, so. But I can do a lot of stuff. But my thing is, I would say I'm not a jack of all trades in this environment. I do know do a lot of different things. But flooring.
What's your specialty?
I would say I was more design actually. I'm more design actually because I think I can do all the constructional stuff, but I do all the remodel stuff.
The ceiling was, you know, really creative and
everything in the house is from I think 80% of the stuff in this house is refurbished, or I made it.
And is this flooring that we have on the
Nice.
back wall? This
Yeah,
wallpaper.
I did that about
Yeah,
5 years
it's
ago.
This is
Flooring.
flooring
Yeah,
on the wall,
nice.
so that's
Yeah.
nice. Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like taking different, and I'm certain things I didn't know how to do. I'm like, oh, I would do better on this one.
Yep.
But it's one of those things like this table was like an old school table, it was looking raggedy. Painted it, did all the things I needed to do to sand it down. That's gonna turn
Refurbished it.
into
I followed you
furniture
on
company.
this table when
Yeah.
I think it's just the. You put
Yeah,
on
solid.
Facebook.
Yeah.
So that was that's
shared
really
with
where
us.
YBH
Goodwill.
is going.
Yeah.
I think
Oh,
I
yeah, yeah,
mentioned
you
a
got
little
the-
bit. Yeah, so YBH is my brand, everyone. I did a soft launch in
YBH.
2022.
Okay.
YBH stands for Young Black Homeowners, and our
Awesome.
mission is to absolutely increase Black homeownership.
Yeah.
So it's in line with my personal mission as a CEO and founder. We are going to do that by just making homeownership cool as part of the culture, normalizing it, and we're starting with apparel. We have some graphic tees, we have hoodies, we have beanies,
Nice.
and, just our basics. But, all of this can be found on our website at ybh.life, but it's really more so around the resource and events that we're planning. I mean, right now, YBH is working with a local nonprofit to secure a grant for down payment assistance. This could cover 20% down for first-time home buyers or people under the 80% area median income, which is huge. That would knock off a lot of your PMI insurance and extra fees, but just having events, connecting with people that look like, me. Yes, it's YBH, it's young Black homeowners, but you can be young at heart, you can be young at age, you can be
I'm
young
young at heart.
and
I'm
you,
young at heart, yeah.
I'm young
yes,
at
we're
heart.
all,
I'm still invited.
as long as you're a part of, the
I'm
mission.
a Dinah's back black.
Hey, no. As long as you're part of the mission and you want to see us really achieve. Washington State, produced a report recently that Black families, we need 140,000 homes in this state alone in order to have parity with whites in Washington State. That's a huge disparity. That's a huge gap. That means there's a lot of work that we need to do. There's 140,000 homeowners out there Black homeowners that Washington needs right now. And so we're going to be trying to aid that mission and close that gap. And really, I see this brand growing. So not only apparel, events, resources, but, once I bought my first house, it was so hard to feel at home within my home, because you can't really find a Black designer, a Black artist, in one-stop shop. Mm-hmm. I want YBH to be a platform for Black designers, Black furniture refurbers like yourself.
I remember we were talking about that.
To come and also, spread your business, share your business. So that's where I can kind of see YBH growing, so maybe that's a 5-year goal. We have a storefront with furniture, apparel, events, resources, and all that good stuff. So I'm really excited. I know that real estate, this was my calling. Like, I'm really passionate about this, not because it's a lucrative business. I'm passionate because I believe that ownership is the only way for Black people in this country to really give the respect, the power, the freedom that we all deserve.
I saw you say that on Facebook, the power of pride, like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we need in this country.
We need economic power, and then I know, you kind of already segued into it, like your why, like why you got into real estate. Then same thing with you, you're not even from where are you? You're not even from this area.
I'm from Ohio, born and raised.
Yeah, Ohio. What part?
Columbus area. So I grew up in a small town, about 45 minutes outside of Columbus, but roughly the Columbus area.
Okay, Ohio's a good place to be
It's a
investing in
great.
right now.
It is.
Oh my gosh.
It is. I have a lot of friends here that are investors. They're actually going back to my home city.
Oh really?
And they've been investing. Are
you dual licensed over there too?
I'm not yet. I'm working on it.
There you go.
I have a really good friend of mine who's a real estate agent in Ohio, and she literally sends. That's another thing, you can invest out of state, right? So
I need to learn that
she
game,
sends
man.
me
Yeah.
multifamilies. Literally, I get a lot of them every day in the Columbus area. So you can get like a fourplex in a decent neighborhood, you guys, for like $400,000,
Nice.
right? But then you can actually get really good cash flow off the properties there in Ohio as well.
Mm-hmm.
They're building that new Intel plant in that area as well.
See, I don't know this
that's
stuff.
where
I need to,
President Obama was not Obama. I miss him so much. Biden just a couple months ago, where he cut the ribbon there in Ohio.
Really?
So there's a big Intel plant for that chip that they.
Yeah, I know Intel, yeah. The new
Yep.
ones,
So
yeah.
they're all coming. There's other businesses are coming in that central Ohio area as well. So it's growing. And
What's the weather like though? I'm just thinking like.
Well, we have
We
very, 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 very hot summers
Oh, okay.
and very, very, very cold.
Extreme.
So I was just talking to my parents the other day. It was a whopping 6. And then a few days before that, Mother Nature just said, we're not going to give you any degrees. We're going to give you negative 1 degrees.
Ooh.
But it warmed up.
Okay.
It's 32 degrees now. It's hot weather there.
That's
People's
freezing.
going to start coming out in their shorts.
That's back to freezing.
Right, freezing.
But the slogan of Ohio is like it's the heart of it all, and it really is. It's in the middle of everything, right? So,
I gotta go. I gotta take a trip out there.
Well, she go with me. I have a friend of mine that actually moved there. She's an accountant, and she said she had moved to Ohio. So what'd you move to Ohio for? She said because I'm speeding up my retirement plan.
There you go.
She's a CPA, and that's what she's doing. And so she's been out there. She was buying things $40,000-$50,000. Now they're worth $40,000 to $50,000. Yeah, and now they're worth a couple $100,000.
So I want to do that too because it's like I haven't traveled I looked up Detroit. I've been watching some of their city council meetings just to get a flavor of what they're doing in that area. But I ain't never been there. I don't know anything about it. So it's like I need to know people from those areas that can feel comfortable at least.
I always say, look, if you're going to invest in another city, though, do your homework on the city. What's propping that economy up? I personally, I'm not into buying places where it's just cheap. Not just necessarily cheap, but if it's just a tourist area. Because if the economy changes, the first thing that people stop doing is traveling.
Ain't going
right?
nowhere.
And it's the last thing to rebound. Right? So I always want to know what's happening in that area, right? So why I look at Columbus, that whole area, is because it has techs coming there. There's medical there. So do your homework on that specific area, and say, okay, and then ask yourself, as Dave Ramsey would say, right? I'm a big Dave Ramsey person. If your plan can sustain in a really down market, then you have a really good plan.
Yeah,
right?
I like that.
Because all the ships rise when the water goes up, right? Yeah. So you got to ask yourself those questions about these particular areas I want to invest in, or you're thinking about investing in, and say, ask yourself, what's keeping this economy up? Where's the money coming in? And what's the future growth? As well, right?
Term,
and if you can check that off, then that to me sounds like a more solid bet than, again, I know I have lots of friends that invest in Vegas, but Vegas to me is a little risky because most people are not going to entertain and gambling if the market falls out. Right. So just be careful. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying just something to think about.
Yeah. No matter where you're thinking about real estate, international, national, local, real estate does rely on supply and demand, and so you do want to just boil it down, right? That demand that Angela's talking about is what's bringing the people, because you always want to think about the resale value. That's only when your house is worth anything is when you can resell it. If you buy a house and no one wants to buy it, well, then I hope you're living in it forever. I hope it's personal.
Well, and tenants too, right? Yeah. So if I'm buying something,
not only if you're buying, but what is the economy looking like? Is there going to because you don't want just one exit strategy. You might want 3 or 4 exit strategies. You don't want to just think I'm going to just flip this house and I'm going to buy it and put all your eggs in that one basket. What if you can't buy it because interest rates drop or interest goes up and demand slows down? So yes, backup is tenants. What brings tenants? A lot of investors will look into properties around hospitals and universities and highways and airports. Those are the 4 kind of industrial complexes that and they're everywhere in every state.
I saw another one I didn't even think about. This Airbnb guy was talking about. He looks at the national forest because he broke it down like the millions of people, even during COVID, that still went to the national forest. He's like, those are good indicators where he buys his Airbnb. I'm like, well, I didn't think about that.
To the Vegas thing, Vegas did not shut down at all during the pandemic. So, but these are things that's why real estate is we're constantly learning in our industries. Although there are waves, there are new variables and factors coming into the equation all the time. Right now, it's prime millennial buying time. A lot of my friends are getting married and having kids, and so the next step is to buy a house. And that's not just my friends, but that's everybody that was born in the late 80s and the 90s. So that's another demand that people aren't thinking about that's going to increase real estate. And so, hey, talk to your real estate professionals, because we're always we're right in the middle of it. But when you are looking out of the state, I would say if you can always think about what is my property bringing, and design does bring value. Design absolutely, because in a market like in ours here locally, and this goes out to all the sellers that are looking to sell their house in 2023. Mom, listen, because I know we're about to list the house. We do have people that can afford homes, but people at certain price points, they want to start getting more. They especially when there are other properties on the market that look just like yours. How is that? Maybe that design, maybe those hardwood floors versus the carpet. That's a major thing that we have to do. Updating your kitchen, maybe update your powder room. That's a small space in your house that won't cost a lot of money that you can put maybe paint or wallpaper to really just make something pop.
Go to Goodwill, get some stuff real quick.
So those are,
yeah.
Those are the things that will also bring in demand. You want to think, how can I attract people to my property, to my asset?
Yeah, especially in this market, because the market is flipping. We talked about earlier when you mentioned the 10%, the market's going down. Just a little perspective here. 10% of what? Right?
So
remember the market was crazy. But remember the market was so crazy. I always say this is where we probably would have been in a healthy market.
Oh, okay.
The market did this.
Okay. So even if it's gone down, it doesn't matter.
So even if it's going down, it's like we're just correcting.
Yeah, we were appreciating at 30%.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
That's not sustainable.
And what exactly is not sustainable. And in this area, our appreciation historically has always been between 5 and 7% appreciation.
It's been crazy, though.
Historically. That's in a healthy market, I should say.
Yeah.
So, and this is where we're supposed to be, and it does this.
We got used to some
It's got to correct, and everyone's like, oh, the market's falling out. And I'm like, no. We're just correcting, but it's still a good opportunity for the buyers because, as she mentioned earlier, that we're in a winter market, so competition isn't as much there.
Right.
You also get the best of both worlds. As a buyer, you can negotiate your closing costs to buy down your rate, and also you're catching those prices that are coming down that are being corrected. So you're not competing with somebody who's paying $100,000 for list price, and you're like, I'm not paying $100,000 for list price, because essentially what they were doing in that market, you were basically giving the seller $100,000 of your future equity in that property, right?
So those are probably negative.
Yeah.
So I say all that to say you're not in the market where you have to give up some of this future equity that you're trying to build onto as a buyer, right? So those who have, back in April of last year paid $100,000. They paid this much, and they give some of their future equity away.
Yeah, they got.
So now they got to get that back in the years to come,
Yep.
and then move forward and start gaining some equity off of that, right? Yeah. And so this is. Come on in. The water's warm. The water's warm. Come on in.
Absolutely.
You guys
marry your price and date your rate. Don't let the rates
say it again.
So marry your price and date your rate. I actually did a cute little reel on IG or TikTok.
You can always refinance off that.
Yeah, but when your rate is temporary. You can always refi. Your price will never change. So if you're getting into real estate because the rates are low but the prices are super high, you're actually putting yourself at a worse position than if rates were just a little bit higher, like where they are right now, around 6.5%.
Because those can change, but your price was already lower.
Your price is what you paid.
Your price is what you paid. Exactly. And 6.5%, those are pre-pandemic rates.
Right.
This is not a high rate. These are normal rates. I would say 2%, 2.5%, 3%.
That's not normal.
Those were unprecedented. Those are never seen in American history. We've never been through a pandemic.
I'm thinking about 3%. I'm like, I ain't changing it.
We've never been through a global pandemic where we shut down, and that's not just in my lifetime, but I know everybody's lifetime. We're probably not going to see another 2% real estate mortgage rate. We're not going to see the Feds with 0% lending rates unless we go through another pandemic, which hopefully we won't see in another 3-4 lifetimes. You know what I mean? So take that information and understand that this is normal. That rates back in the 80s were at 18%. Yeah. And that's real.
Buying houses on credit cards.
I bought my first house in 2005, and the rates then, I was considered a good rate, 5%.
Yeah.
5% back then, and I was considered a really, really, really good rate. And,
I think I got mine.
It's normal.
Yeah, right before the pandemic, rates were about 5%, right around 4.5%, 5%, and it's like if right now the smart thing to do, or anytime rates do start creeping up, it's good to think about multifamilies or duplexes. That way you can offset the cost of your mortgage with your rental income.
Yeah, that's
so it's not a bad time to get in because rent is high in this area. I mean, a 1-bedroom is $1,200. $1,300.
If you're lucky, if you're lucky, higher.
Yeah.
So I want to speak on that multifamily too. You can get an FHA loan for 3.5% down.
Yeah.
Right.
Anything up to fourplex is considered a single family.
I need to learn this. That's what I want to do next.
You figure what a let's just say hypothetically $1 million for the sake of quick numbers, right? 3.5% of that would be $35,000. So for $35,000, you can get into $1 million fourplex. Yeah. And if you have 4 friends that got into that, so what is that? What's the math on that?
I mean, just around 10,000 each.
Yeah, so what is that? 10,000 each. Less than $10,000 each.
Yeah.
Then you guys all own a piece of the pie. You know what your rent or the roof of your head's going to cost you every month. Right. And then you're living in an apartment anyway, so why not live? I own, one of you all own A, B, C, and D.
Exactly.
Right?
I'm chopping those up in the pods.
Exactly. And you can do that and get a roommate where you're at, and your own personal unit. There's so many things you can do. And you don't have to buy it for $1 million. I'm just using that for a quick math problem.
No, I definitely,
how are we doing?
We got about 12 minutes.
Okay.
12 minutes for a hard stop. So we've covered the industry in general. We've covered like your whys, how you got in.
Yeah.
Well, no, you didn't finish all the way your why though. You kind of talked a
why
little bit.
Why did I get in?
Yeah.
Home ownership. Just I've always been. My parents have always owned a home, and it was just kind of something we did. It was normal for us, and in my relatives, I just wanted to kind of carry that on. My uncle and my aunts have all owned multiple real estate. My grandmother owned quite a bit of real estate in our hometown as well.
Okay.
And I remember my auntie had gotten a divorce, and a way to get back is she bought a duplex, and I thought that was just brilliant. Like, that's smart. She's living on one half, and they're paying for her mortgage, and she's rebuilding herself after this divorce, right? Yeah. And then I have another uncle who I found out him and I have a lot of similarities. He, again, was buying just a bunch of multiple properties. And that was help paying his mortgage, and he's done very well. So I was like, wow, I really would like to be able, I'd like to share knowledge, right? Yeah. So I feel like if I learn something, I'm like, Ed, let me share this with you. Or if I feel like there's something that I feel like that can help you, I want to give that information. Some people, I always joke, my brother likes to, his way of showing love is cooking for people, and that's how he shows love. Mine is sharing information. And kind of feeding your soul that way, right? Yeah. That's my way of love. So I did it to, to help people, those I love and care about, and just the community within itself, just kind of build and say, no, we don't have to, we're not trapped. We don't have to sit here. Let's change this mindset. Don't be ashamed of any credit or anything. That's not a big deal. Let me show you a couple ways to get out of it. And protect your credit. Protect your credit. So I got in it to try to, again, to say, hey, look, do this, this, and this, and then start building off of that, right? Because we got to bridge that gap. We got to, we got to pass some things down. We once used to own quite a bit of things over the years, and I want to kind of get that all back.
So I'd love to have you guys more. I was talking to Dennis also. I want to introduce you both to Dennis, because he also works in behind the scenes policy stuff that's changed some stuff in the real estate game that a lot of people don't even know about.
I like to talk to Dennis.
I talked to him last night.
Got some policies I like to talk about.
Yeah, in fact, there's something that I'll talk offline. I brought it up to you earlier, but he knows more about it, and there's an opportunity for people that might want to take it on to be able to be like, one, you're doing good for your community, and it's very important. It's also an opportunity, because we're also talking about social media, talking about branding yourself. The more information and ways you're able to provide value to people, the more people look at you as like, you know what, I can choose a lot of people to work with, but I'm going to choose these two ladies because of all the value you've already provided. And it's just thinking, great opportunity, but it's probably time commitment also, but he can explain a little bit more. But there's so much different, there's a lot of synergies happening in communication that we're having with folks, the type of partnerships that are happening. When you guys are talking about stuff, I'm already seeing things in my head. I'm like, oh yeah, we talking about, it could be a show because you got so much information. You got a lot of information. It could be a series. You never know what that looks like. And it's like, yeah, I'm building my brand out. Well, I also want to produce things too, because I see myself in Tyler Perry-ish / Issa Rae / Jamie Foxx, those type of things.
Oh, I love her.
So it's like everything's possible. It's just a matter of connecting the dots. And when I work with Debrina, she's always on schedule. Like, she's got her schedule down. I'm like, oh yeah, I got to get because that's not my forte. So I got to get stronger in those areas. But the synergy of us working together makes me better, so I can actually do other things. Yeah. And then we come back together and make our money. So. Yeah.
I really do feel like there's a shift happening, and I think that almost maybe our ancestors tasked us with this this role, this job of being, seriously. I mean, there was so much work. Really, there was a lot of work that was done and paved before we even got to be in the positions that we're in today,
Yes.
to even have the opportunities to do and share the information that we know. Now that we have a space, we really need to mobilize. We really need to share the information with as many people as we can. Help and do it all through love. I believe that everyone can eat. Everyone can. There's so much money out there.
Food on the table.
There's so much food on the table, and there's just so much work to be done. That I can help this person and still make a living. This is how we make our livings, through real estate. I mean, through our passions, through our education. This is how it's done. And it's not at a disservice to anyone. No. It's a win-win. And a good real estate deal, even a private real estate deal, it should always be a win-win from the seller and the buyer. Yeah. Let's figure out what your priorities are and what yours are, and how can we meet in the middle. And usually there's a way that we can make that happen. But seriously, I'm excited for, all of us working together as Black people, especially here in the Pacific Northwest, where we don't see, we can go a whole day without seeing another Black person, depending on where you're working, or where you're doing, and so it does bring that community together. And we know that there's also a lot of money that can circulate through all of our networks when we call on each other. When that's how every other wealthy group in culture has done it, right? They work collectively. I it's Kwanzaa. We're celebrating Kwanzaa. Tomorrow is cooperative economics. That's Ujamaa, I believe. Today is cooperative is collective work and responsibility. So I think right now we're exercising our collective work by coming together and just sharing the space and knowledge and love. Thank you, Ed, for creating this platform for us to do that. Yes, and then we're going to talk tomorrow about some Ohio deals, and then we can talk about cooperative economics.
Sitting here talking to you, I got all these things I need to talk to you about.
Yeah, write it down.
I've got something I really want to show you.
Lunch or something. Yeah.
Where are you talking about that? I emailed you. We're going to go.
Yes, we are.
One thing I'd like to do too, because I'm always thinking about, we got a little time. Only a couple minutes.
Someone was
we're almost done. Yeah,
that's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, we got about 2 minutes, I think. We'll wrap it up because we can come back and talk about stuff later on.
Yeah, we can talk about
please bring us back.
Specific topics and stuff.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea. When we come back, let's
because I want regulars, because motivated life, the way I'm envisioning it, I feel like I'm Barry Gordy's mindset. Or looking at Soul Train, like Quincy Jones situation. Letting people have an opportunity to build what they're building. I assist in that area because I'm good at media. I've always done that when I was a kid, telling stories. But then also I morph into other things that I like to do too. So it's a platform for myself and other people. Like you said, I'm building the table for everybody to eat. But then other people are pulling me into their projects, and I'm like, I get to eat this way. So everything I do is not for money. But it turns back into money because we're all helping each other.
Absolutely. So. When you do good work, the money always comes.
The money will follow. That's absolutely. The money will follow.
Yeah.
The money will come. No, this was a joy to be on.
Yeah,
Please feel free to invite me back anytime you want.
Yes, I will definitely
get some Black real estate perspective. That's what I can bring to you. And I will. Do you ever do I don't know, because I would love to invite you to some events and just have you interviewing people.
Yeah,
that's what
I was like, I need you.
That's actually turned into something. I've been doing the Book of Judas is a movie that was done by Anthony Townsend, and so I was in that movie, small part, but the opportunity to be supporting another Black person, and then I just started doing some interviews just because I know most people don't think that way. And so I mean to bring an interview after one of the premieres. A lot of people watched that one. I didn't even push it really. I just threw it out there.
Yeah.
But then I'm getting hired for another premiere called the Picture Taker. So Dennis Comer and Century Collaborative, they're promoting that. It's coming up on January 27th and through the 29th. First showing is going to be at a Black gallery in Seattle.
Oh, the Wild Gallery? Or no?
She changed the name now. It used to be Stephanie Morales owns the gallery.
Oh yeah, I know Stephanie.
So I'm gonna be doing interviews with her and down there and talking to her. We're bringing my podcast down there, and we're gonna interview. I think the director's name is Phil. So that, and then I brought one of my friends is a Black. She has her own snack company between her daughters. So getting her opportunity so she can get a contract to get some money for that. But we're bringing all the Blackness together.
Love it.
So we're trying to support each other, however. But now it's becoming, "Hey, can you speak to these people? Can you speak to these people?" I was like, "Yeah, I can do that," because it's natural to me to talk to folks.
Yeah.
But now I'm starting to see it's like, yeah, a lot of people need that. So that's like another little role that's being carved out without me really thinking about it.
Love it.
Love it. Yeah.
A lot more work to be
I'll
had.
MC.
All right.
Alrighty.
Well, yeah, so this is Motivated Life. We have a lovely time talking about real estate and really getting into the mindset also, because real estate is not just about just making money in the housing. It's about the mindset and building our community. And so I want to thank our guests. And tell us your social media information.
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram, Facebook at Soldbyanzhane. I'm also on Facebook, just Anzhane Slaughter is my first and last name. LinkedIn, same thing, Anzhane Slaughter. But look out for also YBH brand. We are online, so you can look us up at ybh.life. We also will be having our IG and Facebook page coming out soon. So stay in touch to keep up.
I am still working on social media, but I do have a Facebook page, Angelamoore Real Estate Group, and also I'm coming up with another real estate page called Living Around the Sound, where that's our Airbnb investment business as well, and then we're on Instagram again at Sold by Angela. So, yeah.
So there we go. So we have Anjanae, we have Angela. I'm Edward Newbins, The Motivated Life, and we look forward to having you guys back and to the next episode. So.
All right. Peace out.
Peace. Bye.
That's nice.